The year was 2147, and Earth had never seemed more alive. Skyscrapers reached toward the clouds, powered by clean energy sources that humanity once thought impossible. Space exploration had become routine, with colonies on the Moon and Mars thriving. People dreamed of a future where peace and progress would define their existence, but dreams can shatter in an instant. It started with a strange signal near Jupiter's moons. Scientists detected unusual activity, a fleet of ships moving at incredible speeds. At first, they thought it might be an undiscovered comet or some kind of cosmic anomaly. Then came the transmission. It wasn't friendly. The message was short, cold, and incomprehensible, filled with jagged sounds that no human language could replicate. Before anyone could respond, the attack began. The alien fleet struck without warning. Massive ships descended upon Earth like dark storms, blotting out the sun. Cities burned as beams of light rained down from above, slicing through buildings and vaporizing everything in their path. New York crumbled into ash. Tokyo disappeared under waves of fire. London fell silent, its streets reduced to rubble. Billions died within hours, and those who survived scrambled for shelter, their lives forever changed. Alex Carter was one of the lucky ones, or so he told himself. He wasn't in any of the targeted cities when the attack happened. Instead, he was stationed at a remote research facility in the Arctic, working on advanced propulsion systems for interstellar travel. When the news broke, Alex stood frozen in front of a monitor, watching live footage of the devastation unfold. His hands trembled as he saw skyscrapers collapse and people running in panic. Somewhere in that chaos was his hometown, and everyone he loved. Alex, a voice called behind him. It was Dr. Laura Bennett, a colleague and close friend. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock. "We need to do something. Anything." He turned to her, his jaw clenched tight. "What can we do? We're stuck here while the world burns." Laura didn't answer right away. She grabbed a tablet and pulled up schematics of the facility's experimental weapons lab. "We have prototypes here, plasma cannons, energy shields. If we can get them operational, maybe we can help." For a moment, Alex just stared at her. The idea felt futile. What difference could two people make against an enemy this powerful? But then he thought about his family, his friends, all those innocent lives lost in seconds. He couldn't just sit there and do nothing. "All right," he said finally, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "Let's get to work." As they gathered supplies and prepared to modify the prototypes, another wave of destruction hit. This time, it was closer. A deafening roar echoed across the icy landscape as one of the alien ships passed overhead. Its shadow loomed over the facility, blotting out the weak sunlight. For a moment, Alex feared they were next, but the ship moved on, leaving them untouched. "They're not done yet," Laura whispered, her breath visible in the freezing air. "They won't stop until there's nothing left." Alex nodded grimly. "Then we'll make sure they regret ever coming here." Over the next few hours, Alex and Laura worked tirelessly, tweaking circuits, calibrating energy outputs, and testing the prototypes. They knew these weapons weren't perfect, but perfection wasn't an option anymore. Survival was all that mattered now. As they labored, Alex kept replaying images of burning cities in his mind. He thought about the faces of the people he'd lost, the lives cut short by an enemy they didn't even understand. But amidst the grief and anger, a spark of determination ignited within him. The aliens had attacked first, but humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. Not if Alex Carter had anything to say about it. The days that followed were a blur of chaos and despair. News trickled in from the outside world, but none of it was good. The alien fleet, later identified as the Krylos, had established dominance over Earth's skies. Their ships hovered menacingly above major cities, ensuring no one dared to resist. Survivors huddled in underground shelters, rationing food and water while trying to make sense of what had happened. For Alex Carter and Dr. Laura Bennett, however, there was no time to grieve or rest. After stabilizing the plasma cannons at the Arctic Research Facility, Alex and Laura decided they needed help. Two people couldn't save humanity on their own. They contacted a secure military channel and managed to reach General Paul Mitchell, one of the few high-ranking officers still alive. His voice crackled through the comms device, weary but resolute. "We're regrouping in North America," he told them. "If your weapons are ready, bring them here." It took nearly 3 days to travel south. Along the way, Alex and Laura encountered other survivors, frightened civilians, wounded soldiers, and even a group of scientists who had been working on similar projects before the attack. Together, they formed a convoy, pooling resources and sharing information. Each new face brought both hope and heartache. Some had lost everything. Others clung to the belief that humanity could fight back. When they finally reached the designated location, a fortified underground bunker hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains, they found a scene of organized chaos. Soldiers moved crates of supplies, engineers worked on repairing damaged equipment, and medical teams tended to the injured. General Mitchell greeted them personally, his sharp eyes scanning the convoy. "You're Carter and Bennett?" he asked. When they nodded, he gestured for them to follow him deeper into the bunker. Inside, Alex saw maps pinned to walls, covered in red markers indicating Krylos positions. Holographic displays showed schematics of enemy ships, pieced together from reconnaissance data. It was clear that humanity was outmatched, but not defeated. Not yet. "We've got intel suggesting the Krylos are planning another strike," Mitchell explained as he led them to a conference room. "Their next target is Mars. If they take control of our mining operations there, we'll lose access to vital resources." He paused, looking directly at Alex and Laura. "That's where you come in. Your weapons might be our only chance to stop them." Laura immediately began collaborating with other scientists to refine the plasma cannons. She spent hours poring over calculations, tweaking designs, and running simulations. Meanwhile, Alex focused on training volunteers. Many of them were civilians with no combat experience, but desperation made them eager to learn. Alex taught them how to handle firearms, set up defensive perimeters, and operate basic machinery. Every lesson ended with the same message: this isn't just about surviving. It's about fighting back. Not everyone agreed with the plan. Some argued that humanity should focus on rebuilding instead of risking more lives in battle. Others believed surrender was the only option. Tensions flared during meetings, voices rising as emotions boiled over. But General Mitchell remained steadfast. "If we don't act now," he said firmly, "there won't be anything left to rebuild." Amidst the debates, a young hacker named Ethan Monroe joined the team. Barely 20 years old, Ethan had been part of a tech startup before the invasion. Now, he used his skills to infiltrate Krylos communication networks, searching for weaknesses. His work proved invaluable. One night, he stumbled upon coordinates for a key Krylos supply line near Jupiter. "If we hit them there," Ethan suggested excitedly, "we could cripple their operations." The idea sparked hope among the group. Plans were drawn up, strategies debated, and risks assessed. Though the odds were stacked against them, a glimmer of determination began to shine through the darkness. As Alex watched his fellow humans rally together, he felt something stir within him, a fragile but undeniable belief that maybe, just maybe, humanity could turn the tide. The Krylos had attacked first, but humanity wasn't done fighting. Not by a long shot. As the days passed, Ethan Monroe's discovery of the Krylos supply line near Jupiter became a turning point for the resistance. The information gave humanity its first real chance to strike back, but it also raised questions about the enemy they were facing. Who were the Krylos? Why had they attacked Earth? And what did they truly want? Dr. Laura Bennett took charge of finding answers. Using fragments of intercepted transmissions and data recovered from damaged Krylos drones, she worked tirelessly in the bunker's makeshift lab. Her fingers flew across holographic keyboards as she pieced together bits of alien language and symbols. It was slow, frustrating work, but Laura refused to give up. She knew that understanding the enemy was just as important as fighting them. One evening, after hours of analysis, Laura made a breakthrough. She uncovered a pattern in the Krylos communications, a reference to their homeworld. From what she could decipher, the Krylos came from a planet on the brink of collapse. Their resources were nearly depleted, and they saw Earth as a solution to their survival. To them, humanity was nothing more than an obstacle to be removed. Laura shared her findings with Alex and General Mitchell. "They're not just invaders," she explained. "They're scavengers. They'll strip Earth of everything valuable until there's nothing left." The revelation sent a chill through the room. If the Krylos succeeded, Earth would become uninhabitable, a barren wasteland like their own dying world. But Laura didn't stop there. Buried deeper in the data, she found something else. The Krylos weren't acting alone. Certain phrases hinted at another presence, an overseer or controller guiding their actions. Whoever it was, they seemed to wield immense power over the Krylos. "This changes things," General Mitchell said, his voice low. "If there's someone pulling their strings, we need to know who or what we're dealing with." While Laura continued her research, Alex focused on preparing the team for battle. The plan was simple but risky. Send a small fleet to ambush the Krylos supply line near Jupiter. If successful, the attack would disrupt their operations and buy humanity time to regroup. Volunteers stepped forward eagerly, despite knowing the odds were against them. Among them was Ethan, who insisted on joining the mission to provide real-time hacking support. Training intensified in the days leading up to the operation. Alex drilled the crew relentlessly, teaching them how to pilot ships, fire plasma cannons, and navigate zero-gravity environments. He pushed them hard because he knew failure wasn't an option. Every simulation, every drill, brought them closer to readiness, but it also reminded them of the stakes. Lives depended on their success. On the eve of the mission, Alex found himself standing outside the bunker, staring up at the night sky. The stars seemed distant, almost unreachable, yet they represented hope. Somewhere out there, beyond the darkness, lay the key to humanity's survival. He thought about the billions of lives lost, the cities turned to ash, and the families torn apart. Anger burned inside him, but so did determination. The Krylos had struck first, but humanity wouldn't go quietly into the void. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You okay?" It was Laura, holding a steaming cup of coffee. She handed it to him and stood beside him, gazing upward. "Tomorrow's going to be tough." Alex nodded. "It has to be. We don't get a second chance." Laura hesitated before speaking again. "I keep thinking about what happens if we win. What kind of future are we fighting for?" He glanced at her, surprised by the question. After a moment, he replied, "One where we decide our own fate. One where no one takes what's ours without paying the price." Silence settled between them as they sipped their coffee, lost in thought. Neither knew what awaited them in the cold vastness of space, but both understood the weight of their mission. Humanity's survival rested on their shoulders, and they were ready to carry it. By morning, the fleet was prepped and waiting. As engines roared to life and ships lifted off, Alex felt a surge of resolve. This was only the beginning. The Krylos had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The journey to Jupiter was long and tense. The small human fleet moved cautiously through the darkness of space, their ships powered by hastily modified engines that hummed with uncertainty. Alex Carter sat in the cockpit of the lead vessel, his eyes fixed on the navigation screen as they approached the Krylos supply line. Around him, the crew worked silently, each person focused on their task. No one spoke much. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on everyone. Ethan Monroe was stationed at a console behind Alex, his fingers dancing over holographic keys as he monitored Krylos communications. His job was to keep the enemy distracted, feeding false signals into their network to mask the fleet's approach. So far, It seemed to be working. The Krylos hadn't detected them yet, but Ethan knew it was only a matter of time. "We're close," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "Just a little farther." Dr. Laura Bennett remained aboard the command ship, coordinating the operation from a distance. Though she wasn't part of the strike team, her presence was felt in every decision. She had spent hours analyzing the Krylos supply route, identifying weak points where the human fleet could strike hardest. Her voice crackled over the comms system as she relayed final instructions. "Remember, precision is key. Hit their fuel reserves first. It'll cripple their ability to move." As the fleet neared its target, Alex gave the order to prepare for battle. Plasma cannons hummed to life, their glowing barrels ready to unleash destruction. Pilots double-checked their controls while engineers made last-minute adjustments to the ship's shields. Everyone knew this was a one-way mission. If they failed, there would be no retreat. When they finally reached the Krylos supply line, the sight was overwhelming. Massive cargo ships floated in formation, surrounded by smaller scout vessels. The Krylos fleet stretched across the void like a swarm of insects, busy and unprepared for an attack. For a moment, Alex allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope. They had caught the enemy off guard. "Execute Plan Delta," Alex ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The human ships broke formation, splitting into 3 groups as planned. One team targeted the fuel reserves, another focused on disabling communication arrays, and the third provided cover fire. Within seconds, chaos erupted. Plasma bolts streaked through space, lighting up the darkness with bursts of energy. The Krylos scrambled to respond, their ships firing blindly in all directions. Explosions rocked the battlefield as human plasma cannons tore through alien hulls. Despite being outnumbered, the humans fought with ferocity born of desperation. Every shot fired was a message. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Ethan worked furiously to keep the Krylos confused. He hacked into their systems, disrupting targeting algorithms and causing friendly fire incidents among their own ships. "Got him tangled up," he shouted triumphantly as 2 Krylos vessels collided in a fiery explosion. But even as he celebrated, alarms blared around him. A group of enemy fighters had broken through the defensive line and was heading straight for Alex's ship. "Braced for impact," Alex yelled, gripping the controls tightly. The ship shuddered as plasma blasts struck its shields. Sparks flew inside the cockpit, and smoke filled the air. One of the crew members slumped over his console, injured but alive. Alex gritted his teeth and maneuvered the ship into a sharp turn, narrowly avoiding another volley of fire. "We're not done yet," he growled, lining up a counterattack. Back on the command ship, Laura watched the battle unfold with bated breath. The odds were still against them, but the humans were holding their ground. Fuel reserves exploded in brilliant bursts of light, sending shockwaves through the Krylos fleet. Communication arrays crumbled under relentless fire, cutting off the enemy's ability to coordinate. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. By the time the fighting subsided, the human fleet had dealt a devastating blow to the Krylos supply line. Ships limped back toward Earth, battered but victorious. Alex leaned back in his seat, exhaustion washing over him. They had won for now. But as he stared out at the wreckage left behind, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The Krylos would regroup, and when they did, humanity would need to be ready. For the first time since the invasion began, there was a glimmer of hope. The Krylos had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The victory at Jupiter felt hollow as the battered human fleet returned to Earth. Ships limped back one by one, their hulls scorched and their crews weary. Many had been lost in the battle, brave men and women who gave everything to strike a blow against the Krylos. Alex Carter stood on the command deck of the lead vessel, staring out at the damaged fleet. His body ached from the fight, but his mind raced with what came next. The ambush had succeeded, but it was only a small step in a much larger war. Back at the underground bunker, General Paul Mitchell gathered the survivors for a debriefing. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing footage of the battle and diagrams of the Krylos supply line they have destroyed. "We hit them hard," Mitchell said, his voice firm despite the fatigue etched into his face. "But this isn't over. The Krylos will retaliate, and when they do, we need to be ready." Dr. Laura Bennett stepped forward, her expression grim. She had spent hours analyzing data collected during the mission. What she found wasn't encouraging. "Their main fleet is still intact," she explained. "Destroying their supply line slowed them down, but it won't stop them. They're already regrouping near Mars." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Krylos were planning to attack Mars next. If they succeeded, humanity would lose its last foothold beyond Earth. The mining operations there provided vital resources, water, metals, and fuel, that were critical for survival. Without Mars, Earth would be completely isolated. "We can't let that happen," Alex said, breaking the silence. His voice was calm but resolute. "If we lose Mars, we lose everything." General Mitchell nodded. "Agreed. We'll send a second wave to defend Mars. But we need more than just ships and weapons. We need strategy and guts." Preparations began immediately. Engineers worked around the clock to repair the damaged fleet while scientists fine-tuned the plasma cannons. Laura collaborated with Ethan Monroe to develop new tactics, using his hacking skills to anticipate Krylos movements. Meanwhile, Alex trained fresh recruits, teaching them how to fight smarter and harder. Time was running out, and every moment counted. When the day of the mission arrived, the mood was tense but determined. The fleet launched from Earth under the cover of darkness, slipping past Krylos patrols thanks to Ethan's clever interference. As they approached Mars, Alex could see the enemy fleet waiting for them. A massive armada of ships surrounding the red planet like vultures circling prey. It was an intimidating sight, but Alex refused to let fear take hold. "This is it," he said over the comm system, addressing the entire fleet. "We've trained for this. We've prepared for this. Now it's time to show the Krylos what happens when you mess with humanity." The battle began with a sudden, explosive charge. Human ships darted through the chaos, firing plasma bolts with pinpoint accuracy. The Krylos responded quickly, their superior numbers making the fight brutal and chaotic. Explosions lit up the Martian sky as ships collided and debris rained down onto the planet's surface. Inside his cockpit, Alex gripped the controls tightly, dodging enemy fire while lining up shots of his own. Ethan worked tirelessly from the command ship, infiltrating Krylos systems and causing chaos behind the scenes. He disabled targeting systems, rerouted power grids, and even triggered friendly fire incidents among the enemy fleet. "Keep 'em guessing," he shouted, sweat dripping from his forehead. His efforts gave the humans a crucial edge, allowing them to push deeper into the Krylos ranks. On the ground, soldiers led by Alex fought to secure key locations. Plasma cannons roared as they tore through Krylos defenses, clearing paths for reinforcements. The fighting was fierce, with both sides refusing to give an inch. But slowly, painfully, the humans began to gain ground. By the time the dust settled, the Krylos fleet had been driven back. Their grip on Mars was broken, and the mining operations remained in human hands. Exhausted but victorious, Alex looked out at the battlefield, his heart heavy with the cost of the win. Bodies floated in space, ships lay in ruins, and Mars itself bore the scars of war. Yet amidst the destruction, there was hope. Humanity had proven it could stand up to the Krylos, not just survive, but fight back. As Alex climbed out of his ship, battered but alive, he knew this was far from over. The Krylos would return, angrier and more dangerous than ever. But for now, humanity had bought itself some time and a chance to rebuild. The victory on Mars gave humanity a brief moment to breathe, but it wasn't long before reality set in. The Krylos were still out there, and their attacks had only slowed down, not stopped. Back at the underground bunker, The survivors worked tirelessly to prepare for the next wave of conflict. Dr. Laura Bennett, however, was focused on something else, something far more unsettling. While analyzing the wreckage of Krylos ships recovered from the battle, Laura made a discovery that sent chills down her spine. Hidden within the alien technology was evidence of advanced terraforming equipment. The devices weren't just tools, they were weapons. If activated, they could alter Earth's atmosphere, rendering it uninhabitable for humans, while making it suitable for the Krylos. It was clear now. The invaders didn't just want Earth's resources, they wanted the planet itself. Laura shared her findings with Alex Carter and General Paul Mitchell. The three of them gathered in a small briefing room, the holographic display flickering as she showed them schematics of the alien devices. "This changes everything," Laura said, her voice trembling slightly. "If they use this technology, Earth will become their new home, and we'll have nowhere left to go." General Mitchell leaned forward, his face grim. "Can we disable it?" "Maybe," Laura replied, hesitating. "But it won't be easy. These systems are tied into their main fleet. To stop them, we'd need to strike at the heart of their operations." Before anyone could respond, Ethan Monroe burst into the room, his face pale. "There's something else," he said quickly. "I've been digging deeper into their communications. The Krylos aren't acting alone. Someone, or something, is controlling them." Everyone froze. Ethan pulled up a series of encrypted messages on the screen, pointing to strange symbols and patterns embedded in the code. "Whoever this is, they're calling themselves the Overseers. From what I can tell, they're the ones pulling the strings. The Krylos are just pawns." Alex frowned, his mind racing. If the Krylos are being controlled, does that mean they're not the real enemy? "It doesn't matter," General Mitchell said firmly. "Whether they're pawns or not, they're still killing us. But if these Overseers exist, we need to know who, or what, they are. They might be the key to ending this war." Laura nodded, already thinking ahead. "If we can find their command center, we might be able to shut them down. But it won't be easy. The Overseers are likely hidden, maybe even in a different star system." The weight of the situation settled over the group. Humanity was facing not one enemy, but two. The Krylos were dangerous enough, but the Overseers posed an even greater threat, one they barely understood. For now, the priority was clear: stop the Krylos from using their terraforming technology on Earth. But the bigger question loomed: what would happen if they uncovered the truth about the Overseers? As the meeting ended, Alex found himself standing outside the bunker, staring up at the night sky. The stars seemed colder somehow, distant and indifferent to the struggles of those below. He thought about the billions of lives lost, the cities turned to ash, and the battles yet to come. Anger burned inside him, but so did determination. The Krylos had struck first, but humanity wouldn't back down. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You okay?" It was Laura, holding a steaming cup of coffee. She handed it to him and stood beside him, gazing upward. "We've got a lot ahead of us." Alex nodded. "Yeah, but we've got no choice. We fight. For Earth, for everyone we've lost." Laura hesitated before speaking again. "What if we can't win? What if the Overseers are too powerful?" He glanced at her, surprised by the question. After a moment, he replied, "Then we make sure they regret ever messing with us." Silence settled between them as they sipped their coffee, lost in thought. Neither knew what awaited them in the cold vastness of space, but both understood the stakes. Humanity's survival rested on their shoulders, and they were ready to carry it. By morning, plans were already underway. The next mission would target a Krylos stronghold suspected of housing the terraforming devices. As engines roared to life and ships prepared for launch, Alex felt a surge of resolve. This was only the beginning. The Krylos had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The days leading up to the next mission were a blur of activity. The human fleet, though battered, was being rebuilt with every scrap of technology and ingenuity available. Engineers worked non-stop, welding hulls, upgrading plasma cannons, and installing cloaking devices reverse-engineered from Krylos tech. Dr. Laura Bennett spent hours refining the designs for these new systems, ensuring they would give humanity an edge in the coming battle. Alex Carter, meanwhile, drilled the crew relentlessly, pushing them to their limits. He knew this mission would be harder than anything they'd faced before. Ethan Monroe played a crucial role as well. His hacking skills had become indispensable, allowing him to tap into Krylos communications and gather intelligence. One night, while sifting through encrypted messages, he uncovered something vital, a map detailing the location of a major Krylos stronghold. This base wasn't just any outpost. It housed one of the terraforming devices Laura had warned about. If humanity could destroy it, they might buy themselves enough time to figure out how to deal with the mysterious overseers. General Paul Mitchell called a meeting to outline the plan. "This is our chance," he said, pointing to a holographic display of the target area. "We hit them hard and fast. Take out that device, and we cripple their ability to terraform Earth." The strategy was risky. The stronghold was heavily guarded, with multiple layers of defenses. To succeed, the humans would need to use every trick they had: stealth, speed, and precision. Laura suggested using cloaked ships to sneak past the outer perimeter, while Ethan proposed creating a diversion by hacking into the Krylos network and triggering false alarms. Alex would lead the ground assault once the team breached the base. As the fleet approached the stronghold, tension filled the air. Pilots double-checked their controls, engineers monitored shield levels, and soldiers tightened their grips on weapons. Everyone knew what was at stake. Failure meant losing Earth forever. When they arrived, the operation began smoothly. Cloaked ships slipped past Krylos patrols undetected, thanks to Ethan's interference. Plasma cannons fired silently, disabling enemy turrets without alerting the rest of the base. But as Alex and his team landed inside the compound, things quickly turned chaotic. Krylos drones swarmed toward them, their glowing eyes scanning for intruders. Gunfire erupted as humans fought back, each shot echoing through the metallic corridors. Laura remained aboard the command ship, guiding the team remotely. Her voice crackled over the comm system, calm but urgent. "You're close to the device. Keep moving." Alex led the charge, dodging enemy fire while shouting orders to his squad. They reached the chamber housing the terraforming machine, a massive, pulsating structure covered in alien symbols. It hummed with energy, sending shivers down their spines. "Set the charges," Alex yelled, keeping watch as his teammates planted explosives. Just as they finished, alarms blared throughout the base. The Krylos had discovered them. Reinforcements poured into the chamber, forcing the humans to fight their way out. Plasma bolts streaked through the air, lighting up the dark hallways. One soldier fell, then another, but Alex refused to let panic take hold. "We're not leaving anyone behind," he shouted, dragging the wounded teammate to safety. Back outside, the fleet provided cover fire, blasting away at incoming Krylos ships. Ethan worked feverishly to keep their systems confused, rerouting power grids and shutting down enemy defenses. "Hold on," he yelled into the comms. "I'm almost there." Finally, the team made it back to their ship, barely escaping as the explosives detonated. A deafening roar shook the base, and the terraforming device collapsed in a fiery explosion. Cheers erupted among the crew, but Alex didn't join in. He stared at the wreckage, knowing this was only a temporary victory. The Krylos still had other devices, and the overseers were still out there, watching. As the fleet retreated, General Mitchell addressed the crew. "Good work today. But remember, this war isn't over. Not yet." Alex nodded silently. They had struck another blow against the Krylos, but the real enemy, the overseers, remained hidden. Humanity had bought itself some time, but the hardest battles were yet to come. The destruction of the terraforming device was a victory, but it came at a cost. Many lives were lost during the mission, and the fleet returned to Earth with ships battered and crews exhausted. Despite the heavy toll, there was no time to rest. The Krylos were growing more aggressive, launching frequent raids on human settlements. Supplies were running low, and morale was beginning to falter. But Ethan Monroe refused to give up. Back in the underground bunker, Ethan worked day and night, diving deeper into the Krylos communication network. He had already uncovered fragments about the Overseers, but now he pushed harder, determined to learn more. His fingers flew across holographic keyboards as lines of alien code scrolled past his eyes. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford. Every moment mattered. One evening, after hours of relentless effort, Ethan found something. A breakthrough. Hidden within layers of encrypted data was a message unlike anything he'd seen before. It wasn't from the Krylos. It was an order sent asterisk to asterisk them. The sender identified themselves only as the Overseers. The message contained coordinates for a distant star system, along with instructions to prepare for deployment. Ethan's heart raced as he realized what this meant. The Overseers had a central hub, a place where they controlled everything. He immediately called Alex Carter and Dr. Laura Bennett to the lab. "I think I've found their headquarters," Ethan said, his voice trembling with excitement. On the screen, he highlighted the coordinates. "If we can hit this location, we might be able to stop them. For good." Laura examined the data closely, her brow furrowed. "It's risky," she said. "This is deep in enemy territory. If we're caught, we don't have a choice." Alex interrupted, his tone firm. "If these Overseers are really behind all of this, then taking them out is our best shot at ending the war." General Paul Mitchell agreed. After reviewing the intel, he assembled a small, elite team for the mission. Speed and stealth would be critical. The plan was simple but dangerous. Infiltrate the Overseer's hub, gather as much information as possible, and destroy the control center if given the chance. Failure wasn't an option. Preparations moved quickly. The team modified their ships with advanced cloaking technology and upgraded weapons. Laura developed a new type of EMP device designed to disable alien systems temporarily. Meanwhile, Alex trained the soldiers who would accompany him, drilling them on zero-gravity combat and infiltration tactics. Everyone understood the stakes. This could be humanity's last stand. When the day of the mission arrived, tension hung thick in the air. As the fleet launched into space, Alex stood in the cockpit of his ship, staring ahead at the endless void. The journey would take days, and every second felt like an eternity. Ethan remained aboard the command ship, monitoring communications and ensuring the fleet stayed hidden. Laura accompanied Alex, her mind racing with calculations and contingency plans. Finally, they'd reached the coordinates. What they found was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Overseer's hub was a massive structure floating in the darkness, its surface covered in glowing patterns that pulsed like a living organism. Surrounding it were dozens of Krylos ships, patrolling in tight formations. The humans would need perfect timing to slip through unnoticed. Using cloaked ships, the team managed to evade detection and dock inside the hub. Once inside, they split into two groups. Alex led one team to locate the control center, while Laura's group worked to plant explosives. The corridors were eerily silent, lined with strange machinery that hummed softly. Alien symbols glowed on the walls, casting an otherworldly light. As they moved deeper, Alex noticed something unsettling. The Krylos weren't the only ones here. Strange, insect-like creatures scurried along the edges of the hallways, their movements jerky and unnatural. These must be the Overseers, or at least their minions. Alex signaled for silence, his hand gripping his weapon tightly. Suddenly, alarms blared. They had been discovered. Krylos drones swarmed toward them, forcing the team to fight their way forward. Plasma bolts lit up the dim corridors as chaos erupted. "Keep moving," Alex shouted, leading his team closer to the control center. Inside, they found what they were looking for, a massive chamber filled with glowing consoles and a pulsating core. This was the heart of the Overseer's operation. Without hesitation, Alex activated the EMP device. The room went dark as systems shut down, but the victory was short-lived. Reinforcements were closing in. "We need to go, now," Laura yelled, setting the charges. As they ran back toward their ships, explosions rocked the hub behind them. The mission had succeeded, but the cost was high. The Overseer's grip on the Krylos had been weakened, but the real battle was far from over. The escape from the Overseer's hub was a blur of chaos and desperation. As explosions tore through the alien structure, Alex Carter led his team back toward their ships. Dodging collapsing walls and swarms of Krylos drones, plasma bolts streaked past them, lighting up the dark corridors with bursts of energy. Every step felt like it might be their last. Laura Bennett stayed close behind, clutching her EMP device tightly. Her mind raced as she tried to calculate how much time they had before the entire hub collapsed. "We need to move faster," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the deafening roar of destruction. The charges she had planted were set to detonate in minutes, and if they didn't make it out in time, they would be buried alongside the Overseers. Ethan Monroe, monitoring the situation from the command ship, worked frantically to keep the fleet's cloaking systems active. "You've got 2 minutes," he yelled into the comms, his fingers flying across the console. "Get out of there." Alex pushed himself harder, ignoring the pain in his legs and the burn in his lungs. He glanced back to check on his team, counting heads to make sure no one was left behind. One soldier stumbled, injured by enemy fire, but Alex grabbed him by the arm and hauled him forward. "Keep moving," he barked. "We're not dying here." Finally, they'd reached the docking bay where their ships waited. The team scrambled aboard, engines roaring to life as the first wave of explosions rippled through the hub. Alex took the controls of his ship, slamming the throttle forward just as the floor beneath them began to crumble. Behind them, the massive structure imploded, consumed by fire and debris. As the fleet regrouped outside, everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. The mission had succeeded in crippling the Overseer's control center, but the cost was staggering. Several crew members hadn't made it back, and the ships that did return were heavily damaged. Alex sat in silence, staring at the wreckage floating in space. He thought about the lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the battles yet to come. Back at the underground bunker, General Paul Mitchell called an emergency meeting to assess the damage. Laura presented her findings, explaining what they had discovered inside the hub. "The Overseers aren't just controlling the Krylos," she said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "They're parasites. They attach themselves to other species, manipulating them for their own gain. That's why the Krylos attacked us. They were following orders." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Humanity wasn't fighting against a single enemy. They were up against a network of domination and control. If the Overseers could manipulate the Krylos, who was to say they hadn't done the same to other civilizations? "We hit them hard," General Mitchell said finally, breaking the quiet. "But we can't stop now. If we let them recover, they'll come back stronger." Alex nodded, his jaw clenched tight. "We need to finish this. For good." Over the next few days, the survivors worked tirelessly to repair their ships and prepare for one final assault. Using data gathered during the mission, Laura pinpointed the location of the Overseer's primary hub, a fortress hidden deep within a distant star system. It was heavily guarded, nearly impossible to reach, but humanity had no other choice. If they wanted to survive, they had to destroy the source of the Overseer's power. Plans were drawn up quickly. The fleet would launch a suicide run, sacrificing everything to breach the hub's defenses. Alex volunteered to lead the charge, knowing full well that he might not return. When Laura protested, he simply shook his head. "This is bigger than any of us," he said. "If we don't do this, no one will." On the eve of the mission, Alex stood outside the bunker, staring up at the stars. Ethan joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You don't have to do this alone, you know," Ethan said quietly. "I know," Alex replied, taking a sip. "But someone has to start it." The next morning, the fleet launched into space, engines roaring with determination. As they approached the Overseer's stronghold, Alex felt a strange calm wash over him. This was it, the endgame. Humanity had been pushed to its limits, but they had fought back every step of the way. Now it was time to finish what they started. The Krylos attacked as soon as the fleet entered the system, but the humans pressed forward, shields glowing under relentless fire. Alex's ship broke away from the group, heading straight for the heart of the fortress. Inside the cockpit, he gripped the controls tightly, his mind focused on one thing: revenge. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone they had lost. And as his ship disappeared into the fortress, Alex knew one thing for certain: the Overseers would regret ever crossing humanity. The final assault on the Overseer's stronghold was chaos incarnate. Alex Carter's ship tore through enemy defenses, its hull glowing red under the relentless barrage of plasma fire. Behind him, the rest of the fleet engaged the Krylos in a desperate bid to buy him time. Explosions lit up the void of space as ships collided and debris rained down like cosmic hail. Every second counted, and Alex knew he couldn't afford to hesitate. Inside the fortress, alarms blared deafeningly as his ship breached the outer wall, crashing into the heart of the structure. Sparks flew in the cockpit, and smoke filled the air, but Alex ignored the damage. He grabbed the EMP device, one last prototype designed by Laura, and climbed out of the wreckage, weapon in hand. Around him, alien corridors stretched endlessly, lined with glowing symbols that pulsed unnaturally. The air was thick with an eerie hum, vibrating through his bones. Krylos drones swarmed toward him almost immediately, their jagged forms moving with mechanical precision. Alex fired without hesitation, each shot finding its mark. Plasma bolts streaked past him, narrowly missing as he ducked behind cover. His heart pounded in his chest, but his mind remained clear. This was it, the moment humanity had been fighting for. Ethan Monroe's voice crackled over the comm system, strained but determined. "Alex, you're almost there. Keep going." "I'm not stopping," Alex growled, reloading his weapon before pushing forward. The path ahead was littered with fallen drones and shattered machinery, evidence of the battle raging around him. With every step, the pulsating core at the center of the fortress grew closer, a massive sphere of energy surrounded by intricate consoles and alien technology. It was the source of the Overseer's power, the key to their control over the Krylos, and who knew how many other species. Reaching the core, Alex planted the EMP device and activated it. For a brief moment, everything went silent. Lights flickered, and the hum faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness. But then, the fortress began to shake violently. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the chamber in harsh red light as warnings flashed across alien screens. The Overseers weren't done yet. Suddenly, something emerged from the shadows. Tall, insect-like creatures with elongated limbs and glowing eyes. These were the true form of the Overseers, their presence radiating menace. One of them lunged at Alex, claws slashing through the air. He dodged just in time, firing his weapon point-blank. The creature screeched, collapsing into a heap of twitching limbs. More appeared, surrounding him. Outnumbered and outmatched, Alex fought with everything he had left. Each movement became slower, heavier, as exhaustion took its toll. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Ethan's voice broke through again. "Alex, I've hacked their systems. I can disable them remotely, but you need to hold on. Do it." Alex shouted, firing wildly as he backed toward the core. His body screamed in protest, but he refused to give up. Humanity's survival depended on him. Seconds later, the Overseers froze mid-motion, their glowing eyes dimming as Ethan's hack took effect. The fortress shook even harder now, its structural integrity failing. Alex didn't wait. He sprinted back toward his ship, dodging falling debris and collapsing walls. Behind him, the core began to destabilize, glowing brighter with each passing second. He reached the ship just as the first shockwave hit. Jumping into the cockpit, he slammed the throttle forward, barely clearing the fortress before it erupted in a blinding explosion. The blast wave rocked his ship, sending it spinning through space, but Alex managed to stabilize it. Through the viewport, he watched as the Overseer's stronghold disintegrated, reduced to nothing more than floating ash. Back at the fleet, cheers erupted as the remaining ships regrouped. The Krylos, freed from the Overseer's control, retreated in confusion, their hive mind shattered. Humanity had won. As Alex returned to Earth, the weight of everything they had endured settled over him. Billions had died, cities lay in ruins, and scars would remain for generations. But amidst the destruction, there was hope. Humanity had faced extinction and fought back, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they refused to surrender. Standing outside the underground bunker, Alex looked up at the night sky. The stars seemed brighter now, a reminder of what they had sacrificed and what they had saved. Laura joined him, her face weary but smiling. "We did it," she said softly. Alex nodded, his voice steady. "Yeah, and if anyone tries this again, we'll be ready." For the first time in years, the future felt possible. The Krylos had attacked first, but humanity's revenge had been inevitable, and it would never be forgotten.